Thank you. I don't know about you, but this week has been, I don't know what for me. It has been everything and anything you might imagine and then some. But yet, the thing is, for all of it, you have to see God in it all. And sometimes that's a very juxtaposition thing to realize. And certainly it's very ironic at times. And so, as I'm making my way to our spiritual conference through the casino that I'm in, and the noise and the loudness and the dancing and the gyrating and the gambling and the drinking and the smoking and all of it, and the ladies dancing on the tables as the guys gamble, I'm looking at it all and I'm laughing and I'm saying, God, it's all God. My goodness me, I'm having a different experience of you here. And it's not my usual, so, hang in there with me. I'm getting there. So I go with my eyes streaming and red-eyed from the smoke and so on into a whole different atmosphere and a whole different manifestation of what God is. It was wonderful. It was great. But anyway, here I am now, and I'm very glad to be home. Thank you. And... And I bless all of those people, and I say, oh my God, what a hard way to make a living. Thank God I wasn't called to it in this lifetime. No judgment, but thank God I wasn't called to it in this lifetime. Anyway, my dear ones, today we're looking at doing our best. And as we look at doing our best, the fourth agreement, we're talking about doing our best with regard to being impeccable with our word, not taking things seriously, and not assuming straight off. And in so doing that, we are doing and being our best. And so as we look at that, we see it in context. Always you have to see everything in context. So we're seeing our doing our best in context with regard to the four agreements. Because the first three agreements is absolutely rooted and grounded in doing our best. Showing up and doing our best. What does doing our best mean? It means simply living our best, choosing to live from life's highest point of view, our best, highest point of view. And regardless of what's going on in any given situation, to be at our best in it all. And it's very simple, and I love the way he breaks it down. And he makes it very clear for us all to be able to understand. And then the thrust of it all is action, 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 because you cannot do your best without action, without being active and putting action into everything that we are thinking about and deciding upon. So to do our best, the first thing we do is decide, make a decision. I'm going to do my best today. You'd be amazed at how we don't do our best most days. Not really. We really don't. And that's okay, because he says, the great Don Miguel points out so much this common sense. He said, remember now, your best every day is not going to be the same. It fluctuates. It fluctuates. And guess what? It fluctuates according to our thoughts, our feelings, our moods, our circumstances, and our situations. So my best today may not be my best tomorrow. My best first thing in the morning may not be my best thing last thing at night. But all I have to do is my best. So he says there's a level of bestness, so to speak. And so one day my best may be magnificent. Another day my best may be mediocre. And another day my best may be poor. But it doesn't matter as long as I'm doing my best. Now, I will do my best when I am happiest, when I'm feeling most enthusiastic, when I'm feeling good about life and living, especially good about myself, when everything seems to be lined up and all the ducks are in a row and so forth. It's easier for me in those circumstances and situations and with those feelings and thoughts, etc., to be at a great sense of best, a super sense of best. However, he says, when I am sicky and when I am tired and when I'm cranky and irritated and envious and jealous and all of that stuff, then my best is not going to be the same. But nevertheless, I can do my best to cope with all of that and handle all of that. And he says that's all that is required of us, just our best. no more, no less than our best that we can bring to wherever we are in any day, in any situation. Just do your best. I like to say, Moira, do your best and God will do the rest. That's what I like to say. Or do what you can and God will certainly do what you can't do if you're open to it, if you invite it, if you want it, if you let it happen. So guess what? When we're doing our best, we are able to say no to that inner critic, that inner judge within us that will berate us and push us into guilt and shame for not being at our best. You cannot be at your best all of the time at the level of magnificence as long as you're wearing one of these. No, not the jacket, the body. The body. Because our human experience fluctuates. We have some moments that are great, some moments that are not so great, and then we have the regular moments in between and so on and so forth. And you and I have to come to terms with that. We have to be okay with however we show up in any given day. Now, I don't know whether it has to do with Mercury being in retrograde, Reverend Mary, or whether it has to do with my biorhythms, or whether it has to do with my stars, or whether it has to do with the weather. I don't know, I don't care. All I know is I have a choice, and regardless of how I'm feeling, I can say, whatever it is, whatever kind of rubbish is going on, or whatever kind of delight and joy is going on, I can just choose to be my best in all of it. And at that level, be okay with it. Have patience with myself. Have compassion for myself. Love myself enough to give myself a breathing space and not keep berating myself for not being at this and not being at that, etc., etc., etc. You have no idea how much you berate yourself. You really don't. It's a nicky, horrible feeling that. Never enough, never measuring up, always something lacking, always something not right, always something more that I should have, or whatever that is. And that comes from me comparing and contrasting myself with you, or somebody else, or something else. Why can't I have this? Why can't I be that? Why can't life be as good for me as it is for them? You don't know how life is for them. They may be giving the appearance of everything being good, but it might not be that. It could be the total opposite of that. Behind many a smiling face is a miserable, sometimes, feeling. Behind every smiling face, sometimes, is a feeling of discontent and disenchantment and disconnection and all of that. We don't know from Adam what's going on in each other. At the same time, behind every serious face, there could be beaming smiles, happiness and joy. Cannot judge the book by the cover. We don't know. We hardly know what's going on within ourselves, far less knowing what's going on in you. All I know is that if it's going on in me, it's certainly going on in you. If all of that stuff churning up is going on in me, it's going on in you. Why? Because we're all the one thing. We're all the one consciousness. We're all expressing and experience what it is to be a human form, contending with the bigness and the greatness and the magnificence of the divinity within us that we don't know what to do with. It's like giving a 4-year-old a little beautiful pouch with a huge, amazing diamond within it. The little 4-year-old likes the shininess of it, thinks it's nice, but doesn't know its value. Throw it aside like with the other broken toys or whatever, not knowing what that is. And we're like that sometimes. So we have to give ourselves a breath, give ourselves a chance, give ourselves an opportunity to stop judging ourselves against everything and everyone else and stop judging us by appearances. Appearances. If anyone has ever seen have you seen the movie of David Hawkins? I mean Stephen Hawkins. I'm thinking of he was David in another lifetime. When I knew him then. He wasn't so brilliant at that time, but he looked gorgeous. You see that man, if you didn't know that man and you had no reason to have any information about him, you'd look at him and you'd think, God help him. Poor fella. You know, not knowing the bigness within him, the greatness within him, the intelligence within him, the contribution that he's making to life and living. You wouldn't know. We judge each other all the time by appearances. We ought not to do that. We ought not to do that. What the point there I'm making is that we look at each other, and because of our judgments as we see each other, we don't see the truth. We don't see the magnificence. We don't see the brilliance. We don't see the intelligence. We don't see the godliness. We don't see the divinity. And because we don't see it, we don't experience it. We haven't recognized it. But yet we cannot do that with each other until we first do it with ourselves. And I don't care how we are. One wheel on our wagon, four wheels on our wagon with two spares. It doesn't matter. As long as you and I cannot see ourselves in every circumstance, in every situation, doing our best in it all, we're never going to get that God is everything and everyone, and God is everything and everyone in and through and by means of me. I have to come to the point in my life where I love myself, I honor myself, I respect myself, because God dwells in me as me, regardless of how I show up in appearance to you. Whether you see it or not, whether you believe it or not about me, I've got to believe this about myself. That I'm here on a divine mission, a divine purpose. I'm here intentionally. I've chosen to be here just as I am, intentionally, on a mission, on a purpose, to be impeccable with my word, to not take things too seriously, and to not assume anything except the truth, so that I can live my best life now. Oh, my dear ones, the amount of minutes and hours and days that we squander. We are here to live our lives and live our lives out loud in a very beautiful, quiet way. We are here to spend our lives wisely and well. And how do I do that? There's only one way we are called to it, and that is to show up as unconditioned and unconditional love. Well, how is that now for a challenge? When did you last look at yourself in the mirror and say, today I showed up as unconditioned and unconditional love this whole day. I was the best of myself this whole day. So help me God, because I couldn't have done it on my own. I got a little nudge, to say the least, from the divine within me. And sometimes that little nudge is not a little nudge, it's a kick right up the rumpus. If we don't get it one way, we will get it another day. But the best kick right up the rumpus is that hearing within ourselves the gentle and the tender yes. See, it's nothing to do with being kicked or hurt or harmed in any way. It's that we've caught the consciousness of the embrace that's embracing us, and we embraced back, actually. Oh, Spirit, if Spirit was able to feel the way that we are feeling, thank God that God cannot, would feel like the greatest unrequited lover of all time, because we don't return the embrace. The presence is always courting you, the presence is always courting me, but we don't court back very often. And the courting is about our returning the courting. And that's why all the saints and sages say, you must always court the presence of God. Always court the presence of God. Court, get the arms of your heart around it and court back the presence that's always courting you. And then you will live your best life. And he tells the story about the monk. You always get a story about a young monk going off to the main temple and seeking out the master of masters to ask a question. And the master of masters sees him and he says, Master, if I meditate for 4 hours, will I be able to transcend this life of suffering? And the master says, yes, it would probably take you about 10 years, but you could do that. And he said, oh, well, Master, he said, if I were to meditate for 8 hours, how long would it take me to transcend my life of suffering? He says, about 20 years. He says, Master, 4 hours, 10 years, 8 hours, 20 years. And the master says, well, yes. You see, you don't have to suffer. You don't have to torture yourself. You don't have to turn yourself into knots by trying to please God by meditating. All you have to do is love and be in joy. So he said, if you meditate for 2 hours a day, then you have the time to be in love, be in service, and appreciate the presence of God everywhere. And that's what you're here to do. So 2 hours a day should do it. Now, for you and for me, it depends on who we are, where we are, and what's going on with regard to how much meditation we need to be in. But the whole premise of this is, what profits a man, a woman, if she spends endless hours in quiet contemplation and yet doesn't show up to see and serve God in everyday things and in everyone we meet and so forth? What good is that? That's not serving anyone's purpose except one's own. But he said as well as that, all of those 8 hours, etc., will make you tired. And then when you get tired, you get weary. When you get weary, you get cranky and you get irritable and so on. So that doesn't serve any good purpose. So if 2 hours does it or 10 minutes does it, that's fine. As long as you're wherever you are in love, in that sacred service, in that willingness to be the givingness of life back onto itself. And he quotes Forrest Gump as a wonderful example of somebody who takes action. Now, Forrest Gump wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer, the brightest bulb in the light socket, but what he was someone who took action. He was someone who risked. He was somebody who did his best. He was somebody who did his best without any idea of reward, and yet the rewards came to him. He did his best. Well, of course, he also liked chocolate, if I remember rightly. And that might have helped him do his best too, I'm not sure. But the whole idea is just show up wherever you are, however you are, and just, with whatever is available to you, take it and make the most of it. And from whatever it is, if it's only a little patty cake that you can make out of the ingredients of today, make your patty cake and be willing to share it. Now, some days you'll be able to make a big banquet and a feast. But if it's only a little patty cake, be happy to make your little patty cake with what you have. Take what you have, knead it, make it, form it into something substantive that you can contribute and make a difference with in the givingness of that to life. Because that's what we're here to do, to be the givingness of the spirit of love and understanding and wisdom and compassion to all of life that is around us and about us and so on. If you could only see yourselves as Spirit sees you, you would fall down and you wouldn't be able to stand the light that you are. You would fall down like this. You wouldn't be able to bear it if you could see yourself as spirit sees you, its own image and likeness. You'd be like the apostles that went up the hill of Tabor with Jesus when Jesus was transfigured into the fullness and magnificence of his divinity, and they couldn't look at him, and they had to back away, and it was too much. That's how you'd be if you could see yourself as spirit sees you. That's how amazing you are. That's how amazing you are. Each and every one of us on this plane, that's how amazing we all are. Now, some of us hide that very, very deeply until it appears to some of us that it's all gone and there's nothing of God exists in that person. Not true. That person is as brilliant in its essence as was the Christ, as was the Buddha. The Christ, Jesus, and the Buddha. It's brilliant. As brilliant and as magnificent as any Christed one who walked this plane, or any realized and awakened one who walks this earth. That's you. That's your true identity. That's who you are. Now, if you remember that, you can honor yourself and respect yourself and love yourself and appreciate yourself and do right by yourself and take care of yourself. He talks about the ritual of puja. And when I was in the ashram, we did puja every morning. But before you did puja, you had to bathe yourself and get yourself ready and say certain prayers and so on. And then you had to offer fruits and so on and flowers and so on to the aspect of God that you were honoring at any given time. But I would say that you don't have to do that to an image. You have to do that to yourself. You are the symbol. So you bathe yourself, you honor yourself, you feed yourself properly, you bring flowers to yourself, you offer fruits and gifts to yourself in that way that nurtures and nourishes your soul. And that's what we're asked to do, to take care of ourselves. You cannot do your best if you're not taking care of yourself. You cannot do your best if you're out of balance and all of that. You cannot do your best if you allow yourself to go into inaction. Remember, action is important when we're doing our best. If you're in inertia, lethargy, if you're into escapism in the form of whatever it is, alcohol, drug substances, whatever that is, TV, internet, whatever the escapism is, you can't be at your best. And yet, that's how we go into lethargy and that inertia that keeps us stuck and keeps us in that escape zone, that doesn't want to wake up, doesn't want to acknowledge the truth of our being, or anybody else's for that matter, but just wants to just be zoned out. Because it's just too much, I haven't got time for the pain kind of thing, and that will help me escape it. I just want the pain to stop and go away. So if I think this does it or that does it and so on, it may for 5 minutes, but you always have to come back to your pain if you're trying to get rid of it that way. You absorb pain, that's how you handle it. You absorb it into the light that is within you, and you let it be absorbed by it. And you say, whatever is in my life, it's serving my purpose on this plane. It's a godly thing, it's not a bad thing. It's serving my purpose on this plane. And I will live through it, and I will live out of it into my next expression, knowing who I am, what I am, and whose I am. And I will have made a difference because of it. I will have contributed because of it. I will leave finished and complete in my purpose because of it, whatever the challenge is. And there's not one person in this room that doesn't have some kind of a challenge in some way. And some of us keep those challenges very secret. But nevertheless, we're all challenged. That's why we're here, to overcome, and to realize in spite of the challenges. To realize and to know that we can in spite of the challenges. Because in the end, there is only God, and God is all there is. And however God shows up is however God shows up. And God loves showing up in disguise. Loves it. And so, my dear ones, this week, as you go about the business of your life and your living, Stay with the understanding and stay with the thought and stay with the feeling and the desire to express through those 4 agreements. To be impeccable with one's word, to not to take things seriously, to not assume all the time, and certainly to do one's best. That's all that's ever asked of us is our best. No, more than that. Just our best. And remember, God is pleased with our best, and the God is the great self within you, is pleased with our best. Wouldn't exact anything more than that. So don't you dare do that and exact more from yourself than yourself can give in any given moment. For right here and right now, you can know yourself as the divine impulse, the divine desire to know itself, to feel itself, to live itself, to be itself, by means of you in a very unique and profoundly individualized way. That's who you are. Go out there into this world today and don't let anything interfere with you realizing that, living that, knowing that, and forgetting who you are. Because if you forget who you are, everybody else out there will forget it too, and they won't know and treat you as the truth of the being that you are. So always and ever, by means of each and every one of us, to God be the glory in every aspect of our lives and living, in the way we think, in the way we feel, in the way we live. And so it is.